and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to another episode of the TalkFCB podcast coming your way today, guys. And I know right here, it may not be for everybody, the format here of these new kinds of videos, but that's the thing. Remember, it is just a bonus kind of episode, because obviously I'm not always able, I don't always have the time to make the really long videos with all of the editing. Unfortunately, I don't have an editor, I don't have that kind of budget. I wish that I did. So this is simply a case of here, using the time in the best way that I can, still making sure that we can chat long form here together on every single day pretty much. And we do have some really exciting, really engaging topics here to discuss on the channel today that again, maybe I wouldn't have gotten the chance to talk about at any other time, guys, because we're going to be talking about the Champions League, our aspirations, our expectations now in that competition, along with our win over Dortmund, the good and the bad, because in my opinion right now, it's not all rosy. I'm not saying that everything at Barca is perfect. There are a few things from that game that we need to look at in a bit more detail, and we've also got here today injury updates and transfer news as well, with the likes of Dani Olmo discussed, Marcus Rashford rumours in the media, and also players like Ademola Lookman. It is all on the way for you. I hope that you are going to enjoy it, so sit back now, maybe grab a snack, grab a drink, do whatever you like, just relax and hopefully enjoy. Because let's first of all kick off then, guys, with some further thoughts on that Dortmund versus Barca game. And what I would actually like to do first of all is talk about some big quotes that came out after the game. And it wasn't actually from a Barcelona player there that caught my eye, but it was actually from Borussia Dortmund midfielder Marcel Sabitzer, who was actually asked there after the game, what did you make of Barca's quality, Barca's individual quality in this game? But he actually came out and said it was a game that was very back and forth, there may have been a very entertaining game from a neutral point of view, but he said we gained nothing from that. He said in the end, we conceded a completely stupid and unnecessary goal we basically scored against ourselves. That cannot happen. He said Barca's individual quality, their quality in the game, only came about because of our mistakes. He said, sure, they finished well, they were clinical, but it all started with us. We lost the ball and it was unnecessary there. And I thought those words from Sabitzer, they were interesting. And I don't think actually he meant any malice there by way of Barca. I don't think he was really hitting out at us, Barca have no quality or anything like that. I don't think it was quite that strong, but I still disagree with his words there. I still very much take issue with the fact that, oh yeah, Barca, they only won, they only scored because of mistakes. Because listen, this is often said in football, and even when Barca are playing really well, scoring goals, winning big games, you'll always get people coming out and saying, oh, well, actually, that goal there, that only happened because the opposition made a mistake. Barca only won that game because they were lucky to have a mistake. Let's be clear here in football, guys. If nobody ever made a mistake, nobody would ever score. It's that simple, in every single goal. If you pick it apart enough, you can find an individual error. You can find there a mistake that could have prevented that goal from happening. So Barca, whenever they're doing well, whenever they score a goal, people will always try and look as far as they possibly can into the move, into the goal, to try and find a way to tear us back down again. Because even looking at ourselves in this game, you don't even have to look very far into the goals that Barca conceded to actually find really bad, really disappointing errors. Obviously, the first goal that we conceded was a penalty. It's a tackle there. It's a little push from Pau Kubasi that didn't need to happen. But even if you look further into that goal, Guirassy, he may have been offside anyway in the build-up there. So sometimes, actually, with Barca goals that we concede, you look at the referees, you say, actually, it may not have even been our mistake. It may have been mistakes from the officials. The second goal, though, is where maybe I have more of an issue from our point of view. Looking at the way we defended that second goal, the high line, it completely fell apart in that moment. It felt as though Dortmund were really piling on the pressure. Barca there were not really able to respond from that in that moment of the game. And the high line in that moment, it just didn't stand up. Dortmund were able to easily play their way through. They were in behind. And then, of course, Iñaki Peña, he makes the decision to come. That's what he's told to do. Hansi Flick wants him to do that time and time and time again. He wants him to be brave. He wants him to be bold. So, obviously, Iñaki Peña doesn't make the mistake in coming out. But like I say, once you do that, once you actually make that call, you have to get the ball. You have to be the one there to go out, intercept the play. This time, he wasn't able to do it. Dortmund went around him. Once that happens, it's an easy goal. So that second goal, it was a bit of a concern to me. And I still get people, in the comments, many Barcelona fans saying, is this high line going to work out in the long term? We are still having the debate about the high line at Barca. Because I think in this game, it did make me nervous, because obviously you think of the games against Madrid, you think of the games against Bayern there, where we won very, very well. They were incredible games for us. We played the highline, and even in those games, remember, there was nervy moments. You know, Barca were under pressure. Real Madrid, time and time again, of course, with Vinicius, with Mbappe, they were trying to get in behind us. They didn't manage to make it work, though. You know, most of the time, Barca were able to catch them offside. Now, in the Dortmund game, it did happen. You know, on occasion there, we were able to catch Dortmund out. We were able to get that line very, very high and strong up the field. But I didn't feel the same confidence right now, and I don't feel as though the high line is having the same effectiveness as it did a few weeks ago. There are more opportunities now for teams to play through it. We are conceding more goals. The stats simply do not lie right now. And I do have a few concerns about it. I think we need to get back to the level that we saw a few weeks ago. And I'm not sure if it's because our team's learning the way to play against this Barcelona team, against this Hansi Flick style of play. I'm not really sure about that, because obviously Flick has been around for a long time in management there. His style is very, very well known. Even coming into this season here, teams that were coming up against Barca, they should have kind of known what to expect. They've got lots of analysts, they've got lots of people there who really do look in very, very thoroughly at what teams are going to do against them. So I think they would have expected this style from Flick. I don't know if opponents here are just reading it better, but more again, it's just about the energy levels. It's just about, for me, the amount of games, the amount of demands, and Barca are just not being able right now to execute their game plan as well as they were. And it is as simple as that. And that is why when we move on to talk here about the Champions League, we are on the verge of doing something very, very significant. And let me just explain that, because we are second right now, of course, in the Champions League table. We're well inside of the top 8. We're not automatically qualified yet for the round of 16, but we are not far away. We are odds-on favourite now to make that happen. And the most important thing about that, obviously you get a little bit more prize money, you get a bit more prestige for finishing higher up the table, but the most important thing, we avoid 2 very unnecessary playoff matches. And that is absolutely huge, guys. We are not going to be taking part there, we expect, in the round of 32, where you play 2 playoff games against top opponents, you're really being worked hard. That is massive, because if we can actually get through there, as we expect to do now, and miss those games, you've got 2 free midweeks at some point next year, at some point there in a really demanding second half of the season. If I said to you now, you're going to have 2 midweeks completely free, I know for a fact Hansi Flick would snap your hand off for that. They are at a premium right now. That is an incredible luxury, and that is what we need. We need to find ways here of getting our energy levels back, and that is why I'm excited here to see off these final 2 games against Leganés, then indeed against Atletico Madrid. Hopefully we can end this year very, very well, but then what's really important, we have a little break. And that is so important, I feel, for this team right now, because so much of what we're seeing, the little drop-off, it is a lot down to tiredness. I really believe that there. The fatigue, because of the same players that have had to play game in, game out, our lack of depth here has meant there's been so many demands there on that starting 11. And what I would also say is there, looking at next year, when the question is asked of, can we win the Champions League? Because that is the question that is being asked right now. And honestly, we should be asking it. You know, there is only one team in the Champions League this season that has done better than we have, and that is Liverpool. And they are deservedly in that top spot. They have been immense this season. But do you think that they are asking themselves, can we win the Champions League? You bet they are. They are feeling confident. They are really confident in their team. And so, they're saying, and rightly so, can we win it? And we should be doing the same. Our aspirations are that we go and we try to compete to win this tournament. And based on how we have played in this tournament, we can win it, in my opinion. What we have shown here against Bayern at home, where we absolutely took them apart in the second half. Now, in the first half of that game, it was a bit tight. You know, it was very much a 50-50 game. But you kind of expect that. It's just like against Dortmund here, whereby the game was in the balance for a while. But that's what happens when you play top teams. You know, you can't expect them to just dominate them for the whole 90 minutes. There are going to be games here where you have to absorb pressure, whereby you're on the back foot, whereby things aren't going all your own way. That will happen in the biggest Champions League game. The problem that we've had, by the way, over the past few years, and going back even further than that too, is that we can't actually stand up to those challenges. That is why we've not been able to go and win the Champions League. You know, you think about Real Madrid. Have they always been the best team in every game, in every round of the Champions League, going back all of these years? No way. Absolutely no chance there. At times, they're not even the best team in their own domestic league. But they find ways of rising to that occasion there. Winning games where, let's be honest, they shouldn't do. You know, rising to those occasions and making sure that you have the mental strength to stand up. And that is what I've seen from this Barcelona team in the Champions League so far this season. Aside from the first game, where we got that really early red card, we have been mentally strong. We have done exactly what we've needed to do. We've won the games that we've had in front of us, and you can't ask for more. We are putting ourselves in the hat, in the race. We're second in the table right now, and moving on to next year, we should be confident, and we should feel as though we are exactly where we want to be. And speaking indeed, guys, about the squad, about the lack of depth that we've had really this season, of course we've been really boosted recently by the return of Ronald Araujo. We still fully expect him to make his proper return at the weekend here in La Liga. That has always been the plan, and they didn't really want to rush things. They didn't really want to throw him in at the deep end upon his return after being out for so many months. So he is going to be a big improvement there on the depth in our defence, and I'm sure that we're going to see him become a big part of Hansi Flick's plans at the back, and that is really important there. And also him as a leader, as a character, he is a big part of this team. But also today, we've had yet more good injury news, because today, returning to the group for part of the training session, Ansu Fati is back amongst it, and also Andreas Christensen. He has returned today to do part of the training with the group, and that is really interesting. And I've got to say, guys, I am fascinated, absolutely fascinated to see what's going to happen with Christensen there. When he returns from his injury, we all know there's real issues surrounding his registration, and we're going to go on to talk in a minute about Dani Olmo and his registration. These two sort of tie in together, but we are still hearing a lot of rumours there linking Christensen with a January exit from the club. But let me just say, wouldn't Hansi Flick absolutely love to have him as part of his squad? You know, we've spoken about it before. Returning their Araujo, returning their Christensen, those would be two massive additions to ease the burden, you know, ease the workload on that defensive line, because that's where the system is. You know, we've spoken just now about the high line, how important it is that you constantly get it right. You need specialists, you need top defenders to make it work, and imagine being able to add sort of two new signings almost in the second half of the season there, Araujo, Christensen. That could be absolutely massive for our campaign there. So I think as much as we possibly can, I know, as we're going to talk about now with Olmo, it's not ideal, but can we try and hold on to our squad? Can we try and hold on here, especially the key, important, quality players? You don't want to be turning them away. But okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Dani Olmo situation, because big reports, big rumours coming out this week that, if Barca can't actually register Olmo, because he's only registered here right up until the end of the year, we'll need to re-register him in January. If we cannot do that, apparently the clause in his contract says he can walk away for free. A 60 million euro signing could walk away for free 6 months after we have signed him. I mean, that's absolutely extraordinary. Have you heard of anything like this at any other club? You just haven't. Welcome to Barca. Welcome to what we go through on a daily basis. But okay, what is actually happening right now is that Barca reportedly had a kind of agreement, a sort of gentleman's agreement there with Javier Tebas, but that's kind of tricky when the guy you're dealing with is not a gentleman, so that's obviously not the ideal start. But apparently they agreed with Tebas that basically Olmo could be registered in January, providing we signed the contract with Nike, which we have been waiting on for a long time. I mean, we have been waiting for that Nike deal probably for as long as Ferran Torres took to shoot against Dortmund. It was a long time. But apparently now, the issue is that even though that deal has been signed, even though we finally did get it across the line, a record-breaking deal with Nike, the issue is apparently that's not enough now. I mean, who knew that Javier Tebas could turn around and change his mind? He's never done that before. He'd never do that to us. The guy is unpredictable. La Liga, of course, will try and make it as difficult as they possibly can for us. We know that. So now Barca are in the position whereby in January they might need something else. And that is the problem here when you're talking about Christensen, when you're talking about keeping hold of the squad. Will we be able to? You know, in order to be able to register Olmo and ultimately keep hold of your 60 million signing, it's not a situation that you want to be in. But all that I will say with Barca is that usually, even though there's panic, even though it gives the media the perfect opportunity to sort of make a big noise about it, really scare all of us Barcelona fans, usually in the end, Barca get it sorted. Laporta knows what's at stake here. Laporta knows what's happening. It's not a secret here that we need to register Olmo. So you would imagine the club are putting everything in place to make it happen. But will that mean we have to sell? Will that mean that maybe a quality player like Christensen could be on the exit ramp? But at the end of the day, he doesn't want to leave. So Barca here will need to look at what they got. They will need to understand the situation because Tebas and La Liga, they're not going to make it difficult. But Barca knew back in the summer when we registered Olmo in this way, we knew what would be to come. Which, of course, guys, then, off the back of all of that, real doubts, rumours, concerns about the January transfer window, from a Barca point of view then in terms of maybe bringing players in, maybe actually adding to the squad and adding some depth in some way, well, maybe that is looking now a little bit more unlikely here. But looking at the wider areas in general, whether it be in January, more likely, of course, in the summer there, a big signing for Barca, we have heard recently in the media links there to Marcus Rashford. He's really struggling right now at Man United. They are actually desperate to get rid of him. They want to sell him in January if possible. He's on huge wages at the club. He's not playing well. Now, I would just say, Man United, in fairness, they make everybody look worse. They absolutely do there. If we think that Barca is a circus, and at times it really is, well, Man United is a whole different kettle of fish, believe you and me. So United right now, they're kind of scratching around, trying to get rid of players. Rashford, he's being linked to Barca. I think mainly that's just the English media trying to throw out some links, trying to drum up some interest. So I would not look anything into that at all. So don't worry about Rashford and Barca. But in terms of wingers as a whole, guys, we continue to hear the names of Rafael Leao. You also hear, of course, from Serie A, Kvaratskhelia, a very, very exciting winger there. Players that we would love to have at the club. Those are sort of proven wingers that I would say. But at the same time, those are also players that, as we said before, will cost around 100 million euros. So my question would be, they might be proven, the likes of Leao, Kvaratskhelia, but are they that proven? Are they actually proven enough to be talking about 100 million? Because yes, there's talent there. Yes, they've really done some real quality things in their careers so far. There's no doubts about that. But are they proven enough to justify that kind of fee? Maybe even more than 100 million euros. Because then you've got sort of the next bracket of player that have been linked to Barca. So the likes there of Marmoush from Eintracht Frankfurt, who's had an absolutely incredible season. Free kick specialist he is. And then you've also got somebody, for instance, like Ademola Lookman, who against Real Madrid the other night, I thought was absolutely terrific in the way that he played. He caused them no ends of problems there. Scored a goal, of course, on the night and really, really has impressed at Atalanta. So he's a player that is exciting, that is talented, but maybe not the same kind of fee that we're talking about as the others. But at the same time as well, then, there's lots of different ways you can look at this, because Marmoush and Lookman, they're also not out-and-out wingers in many ways. They can play in wide areas, they can drift out there, they have played there at times, but at the same time, they do also operate centrally. And in my opinion here, guys, we have to be really focused on a genuine winger, on not just somebody who can play this, somebody who can sort of drift out wide and do a job there. We've got players like that already, and it's not really working. We need players who can actually play as a winger. 1 versus 1, man-to-man there, out wide, keeping their width. You want a traditional winger, in my opinion. Nico Williams, of course, was on the club's radar. We all know about that last summer. We went after him. He was the kind of profile that we were looking for. He is definitely somebody who fits the style of what we need, but I don't think we'll go for him. Apparently he would actually be more open to joining now, guys. Can you believe that? That's what we're hearing in the media, that he would be more open to coming to Barca now. But has that ship sailed? Should that ship have sailed? Do let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you had to choose right now, what winger would you go for? What kind of winger? What profile of winger? But also in terms of how much you'd spend on that department of the team. You can also let me know that in the comments down below. And of course, on everything else that we have discussed in today's video right here, guys. So thank you indeed to all of you for tuning in. I think we've had some good conversation between us. Lots here to think about moving into the weekend. I will see you tomorrow for the full match preview ahead of Barca against Leganes. And that will be, of course, in the normal format. Do not worry about that, guys. Thank you, though, for joining me. I'll see you soon, but until next time, as always, Vejska, El Barca.